HBO's latest viral blockbuster, The Last of Us, the drama show with 9 episodes and 7 different directors. How about that? Alright, so The Last of Us is a pretty cool show with pretty good actors and based on a pretty cool game.
This better be good.
I came into this show expecting and hoping to love it, and when it came out the gate swinging with 3 solid episodes that didn't make me immediately hate it, it was off to a great start. But it was not to last, and only 5 episodes in, damage beyond repair had been made, and I didn't have a choice, you guys. This video was simply inevitable. Now keep in mind that just because some things are done just like in the game, doesn't mean it's any less stupid. Let me know if you agree with these errors, or if I missed something.
So much goddamn talking.
Let's go. Alright, so the season kicks off strong with a great bit of backstory and Joel's daughter Sarah making birthday brekkie, but as she gets ready to go out, Chekhov's knife over here is introduced but never used. Which would be fine if, for example, the 3 horses ingrained on its blade had turned out to have some sort of symbolic value, but this is never referenced again. That's around $50,000 worth of screen time, by the way. Then, as the apocalypse gets underway, things start blowing up left and right for no reason. Like seriously, how does people biting each other lead to what looks more like an alien invasion than a zombie apocalypse? And as they try to escape the chaos, a car separates Joel and Sarah from Tommy, but he totally could have climbed over it without getting burned. And no, burning cars do not automatically explode in real life. Ask your local fireman about it. 20 years later in the QC, we see shoelaces being a precious commodity, but the infected kid who gets tossed in a burning ring of fire is wearing perfectly fine shoes that have not been salvaged. When Joel and Tess run into Marlene, Ellie asks for her knife back when people are still pointing guns at each other. I know she's a tough one, but she's also 14 and not that stupid. Episode 2 is by far the best, so I don't have too much on it. Unfortunate how the show peaks so early, but it is what it is. So it just happens that I live in Indonesia, right? And like so many of my friends, I was delighted to see the show partly take place here. But the manner in which the military man and the university professor speak to each other is way too casual, when people in their position would be much more formal with each other.
Maaf, sudah mengganggu makan siang. Tidak apa-apa.
Boom, nowhere is safe. The episode remains flawless all the way until they reach the library, where a bunch of people just died, which would prompt even the most inexperienced survivor to immediately check for zombie activity, but neither Joel or Tess does. Then, when Tess turns out to be infected and stays behind to cover the retreat from the incoming horde, Joel grabs Ellie to go, but she protests despite knowing there's no other way.
We're not leaving her! Get off me, you
Unless, of course, you think Ellie has grown so attached to Tess in the last 10 minutes that she would throw the future of humanity out the window to be with Tess for another... How long was it again?
Maybe a minute.
Right. Then, when the affected do break in, they don't immediately go for the bite, but rather some sort of kiss of death? It's never explained why the infected would do this instead of just biting like they always do. I mean, fine, it makes sense for the cordyceps virus to limit damage to new hosts, but the risk of Tess putting up a fight really should prompt them to be more rough with her. That sounded less weird in my head. Episode 3 starts out with some hollow drama for drama's sake, and the tension between Joel and Ellie is high, but it's not before they reach Cumberland Farms that we get our first error, as Ellie casually jumps down a hatch into the darkness. Am I crazy, or does that sound like something nobody ever would do? She also doesn't so much as scan the place with her torch before snooping around. Call it a nitpick if you want, but a 14-year-old girl with PTSD from the last time she snuck into a zombie-infected place, jumping down a scary hatch without checking her corners? Yeah, I don't think so. Then it's time to jump back in time to check out Bill and Frank, and we start with Bill coming out of hiding, actually checking his corners. But instead of taking the precautions one might expect from a paranoid bunker person, he jumps straight out into the open where he could easily be spotted. Maybe peek through the windows of the house you've prepared for exactly this moment next time. But no, years later he makes the same exact mistake again as he's under attack by raiders, shooting back while standing wide open like a sitting duck. At least Frank knows how to take cover. And when Bill is inevitably shot, the raiders are suddenly not a problem anymore.
The fence will kill the rest of them.
Kinda feel like you could have stayed inside and left it to the fence then. But it's okay because his wound was temporary and pointless anyway, just like this entire episode, which is really such a shame because Bill and Frank's story is amazing in and of itself, but being completely tacked on and not having any impact on the main narrative does leave a poor aftertaste. The episodes covering Kansas City introduce us to the big bad boss Kathleen, who's got to be the most unconvincing apocalyptic leader I've ever seen. Ugh, the stories told here are so shallow it makes keeping up with the Kardashians look like f***ing Inception, and unfortunately don't amount to much more than a big dumb spectacle. But without getting ahead of myself, after Joel and Ellie get shot at and crash their car, Joel asks Ellie to cross the firing line to get to safety, when staying behind the car or even sneaking back behind the trolley would have been a much safer option. Which is also what Joel does himself. Also that they can be separated in order for Ellie to come back and shoot someone in dramatic fashion. Then, when young Ellie fires a gun for the very first time, one-handed mind you, the recoil is seemingly non-existent. Joel even makes this point in the very next scene as he shows her how to use the gun while the city is busy looking for Henry.
Find every collaborator and kill them all.
Episode 5 is where the show really falls off a cliff and beyond saving, cementing a pattern of pointlessness that holds this show back from actually being good. A shame, seeing as Sam and Henry's story is really interesting. But I don't think I'm the only one who would have wanted more of them. To start, Kathleen interrogates a group of informers to find out where Henry is, but only extracts information from one of them, and it's not even useful.
He's still in the city.
Yeah, you already knew that. And yet that prompts her to launch another sweep of the city to find him.
Okay, I want our people going door to door until we find him.
It's not like they just did exactly this at the end of episode 4 or anything. Up in Joel and Ellie's crib, Sam and Henry sneak up on them, and not only does Henry go for Ellie, but has Sam stand dangerously close to Joel before waking them up. Now, I'm no expert, but it seems to me that Joel could turn the situation on its head in a heartbeat like this, which is a risk Henry should be too wise to take. But it's okay, because we're all friends here anyway, and when the gang goes down into the sewers, famous for housing all of Kansas infected by the way, Henry starts shouting for no reason.
You see? It's empty. The plan is good.
Oh, and is it just me, or don't you wish that instead of Henry shouting like a f***ing idiot, they'd have the group encounter a couple clickers in the sewers, with Sam being the one to navigate them out of that situation using sign language? Not an error, obviously, just a missed opportunity.
No.
Then, when they get back outdoors again, not only do they casually walk in the middle of the open street, but Henry decides to get loud again.
No one's gonna be here because my plan worked.
That doesn't even make sense. Who wrote this dialogue? Well, whoop-de-frickin-do. Middle of the street for the win. Then, despite already being behind cover, Henry decides to abandon it without having anywhere to go.
Let's go. What are you doing? Get the f*** out of here!
And even though the sniper sees Joel coming for him, he doesn't think any more of it as soon as Joel's out of sight. There are also no traps or alarms rigged in the house, which seems extremely unlikely for a station sniper. At least in the game, the sniper expects Joel's ambush. This Hollywood explosion? And when Kathleen has the gang cornered behind the car, she launches into a weird argument suggesting that curing Sam's leukemia was f***ing with fate.
I know why you did what you did, but did you ever stop to think that maybe he was supposed to die?
No. Why would anyone ever think that about their sick brother? Actually, Kathleen is contradicting herself big time here, seeing as her motivation is exactly the same as Henry's, doing terrible things because she cares about her brother. So even if she hates Henry, she, of all people, should understand.
Well, this is what happens when you f*** with fate.
Whatever. And when the infected start flooding out of the sinkhole, Lieutenant Perry stops shooting in order to tell people to keep shooting.
Run him down! Run him down!
Yeah, you don't say. Then Joel snipes an infected without the bullet penetrating or even reaching the car window. Then he recklessly shoots at moving targets inches away from Ellie, who is also moving. And finally, Kathleen turns her back on the zombie carnage to point a gun at her enemies, without shooting them, which of course results in... Back in some safe house, Ellie finds out that Sam has been bitten and will soon turn into a zombie, but despite this, she spends the night in the same room as him as if it's not a big deal. Lastly, when Sam attacks Ellie, Henry prevents Joel from interfering out of fear he'll hurt Sam, but then changes his mind and shoots Sam before allowing himself any time to consider what's happening, let alone weighing his options. He doesn't even look at Sam once before turning to shoot. And before anyone says this is exactly like the game, let me point out the difference that Game Henry is well aware that Sam is turning.
He's turning!
As well as having time to get a good look of what's happening before shooting.
That's my brother! Screw it!
And as we know, shocked with grief, Henry shoots himself to wrap up the Kansas plotline. But hey, it's okay, it's not like he left any lasting impacts on the narrative to grieve for him, am I right? It's 3 months later, and while Ellie's hat is straight off the racks of the pre-apocalyptic world, Joel is too good to wear one at all. This is the episode where this hilarious couple comes and goes, Tommy comes back and goes, and Joel's PTSD comes and goes, never to be heard of again. First off, Joel and Ellie ask for directions, and when being told that the only thing they shouldn't do is cross the river of death, naturally, without considering any other options,
All we have to do is cross the river of death.
then when they reach said river, they jump to the conclusion that it's safe based on not seeing any people immediately across it.
The river of death. Still no people.
Fine.
Then, to reach the bridge, they follow the shore of death like sitting ducks instead of using trees for cover. Jesus, guys, you're really asking for it. But they find Tommy and everything is fine until Joel and Ellie reach Firefly University, and they stroll on through the close quarters on their horse, not checking their corners, and without close-range weapons at the ready. It's only when they reach the lab building that precautions are back on the menu again.
Gun?
Yeah.
However, they casually park the horse out in the open, essentially leaving a massive sign announcing their presence. And before you tell me these are all nitpicks, this ultimately does come back to bite them right in the butt as raiders spot the horse and go looking for them. So what to do if not to sneak out and jump on the horse without a thought that someone might be waiting to ambush them? Oh, and make sure to not check your corners! Wouldn't want to ruin any surprises coming your way.
Joe! I think we're safe. Joe, no! Joel? I can't do this without you. Please.
Oh no, main character, don't die! But it's all good, because cut to the next episode and Ellie has somehow transported the grown-ass man all by herself. And while the 7th episode is entirely pointless, the first few scenes actually aren't terrible.
You're smart, Ellie. You're so smart, you're stupid. There's a leader in you.
And so when Riley comes in and takes Ellie for a night out in the Fedra-controlled QZ after curfew, they talk openly and loudly about Riley being a Firefly.
Oh, are they teaching you this at Firefly University? Yeah.
Then, when encountering a pale unconscious man, Ellie, who was just told how smart she is and what a future leader she'll be, leans in face to face with him despite him looking dead AF and is likely to turn for all she knows. But it's cool because the floor caves in from underneath him, and only him, and it's all good in the hood. And hey, it's pretty funny, right? So let's leave him there. It's totally safe. It's not like he might turn into a zombie and be the end of the entire city or anything. And guys, I know what you're thinking. A global zombie fungal pandemic might teach people a thing or two about basic hygiene, but not these chicks. No, they happily put their mouth on the dead guy's bottle like it's nothing. Oh, but come on, Culture Vulture, it's actually quite realistic. Nobody learned anything from COVID anyway, so it's really just like in real life. Besides, it's about 2 girls having fun, right? I mean, look, they even got their own Stranger Things montage with 80s music. Don't get caught up on details like that. Okay, fine, but when Ellie walks backwards through a bunch of doors in a place that's known to be crawling with infected, it does kind of ruin the immersion, so sorry, not sorry. Then the lights come on, and apparently the body shop has been left unrated for 20 years, looking like the apocalypse hasn't even flippin' started yet. No, not buying that. And when the zombie attacks, Riley gets knocked out, but not really? Yeah, I'm not sure what that was supposed to be. Lastly, we don't get to see the moment of Riley turning or how Ellie deals with that, nor do we get to see Ellie realizing that she isn't going to turn herself. And like, isn't that the entire point of this episode? Building up to a pivotal moment of her character development? So we basically got 40 minutes of pointless screwing around in the mall, and they chose to exclude the only part that would have actually been interesting and made it all worth it. Episode 8 is an interesting one, as it covers some enticing dilemmas and delivers a good bit of suspense, but is ultimately held back by a myriad of unfulfilled potential and downright bullshit. First up, there's Ellie running after a rabbit instead of stalking it.
You're quite a hunter. We didn't even hear you coming.
And when David tries to prove that everything happens for a reason, his argument is...
So I sent 4 of our people to a nearby town to scavenge what they could, and only 3 of them came back. Turns out he was murdered by this crazy man. And get this, that crazy man was traveling with a little girl. You see? Everything happens for a reason.
Dialogue is hard. Then Ellie doesn't use gloves when collecting snow for her horse to drink. Like, seriously, who does that? And when she sees the preacher's crew coming, she comes out with a brilliant plan of distracting them away from Joel, but there are a couple problems with this. Putting herself at risk by approaching them seems like about the last thing she'd want to do. She then rides out on her horse and not only draws their attention to her by shouting, but does so before she starts shooting, making them harder to hit. And unless she can wheel that mare around like a bona fide goddamn cowboy, she's quite an easy target for the 6 armed men herself. Then she gallops away, and I don't know how many of you know the first thing about horses, but they need extensive warm-up to do this, especially in the cold. But the horse is shot and killed before it could suffer a cramp anyway, so that's good. Then this guy fails to see Joel coming simply because the camera is too closely zoomed in on him. And by the way, Joel has way too much strength for someone who was just bleeding out 5 minutes ago. Back in the resort, Ellie wakes up in captivity and wastes precious nutrients because she's angry. I cannot stress enough how nobody would ever do this when they're hungry and food is running apocalyptically short. David then points out this controversy about Joel.
Didn't he take another man's life to save yours?
He was defending himself.
He was defending you.
Which is hardly controversial at all. And despite having just stated his awareness of Ellie's violent nature, David approaches and tries to have an intimate moment with her. All in an effort to groom her, but why go straight to the point instead of taking things step by step, making her more comfortable and cooperative over time? I mean, dude, have you never groomed a 14-year-old before? Ow! 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 Then David and James allow this to happen. Then David allows this to happen. And when Ellie finally reunites with Joel, the house in the background doesn't appear to be on fire anymore. And as they walk off into the sunset, Joel's injuries are, of course, but a thing of the past. The season finale kicks off in contemporary fashion. God, I love birth scenes. But jokes aside, HBO sure knows how to cast mothers. Add to that the actress playing Ellie's mother, Anna, is the voice actor of Ellie in the game. Not gonna lie, I was impressed. And so the first error comes as Ellie is born without placenta or other naturally occurring fluids.
It's bone dry.
Then again, when Marlene shows up to discover the entry point of the infected that came through the window, no blood or other naturally occurring fluids are seen where the assailant would inevitably have cut themselves. Then we've got badass boss survivor apocalypse leader Marlene not checking her corners. Then she says,
"Cover her ears."
Dude, you had one job. Back in the current timeline, Ellie is able to see the giraffe through the curtains blocking out all natural light while Joel is not. Then they don't check their corners again and get knocked out by the fireflies. Seriously, how is anyone still alive 20 years on without checking their goddamn corners? And when Joel wakes up, Marlene says,
Patrol didn't know who you were.
Excuse me while I call bullshit. Not only would Marlene have made sure Patrol knows not to harm the savior of humanity and her guide when they see them, but add to the fact that Joel and Ellie shout each other's names before the guard Hollywood knockouts Joel. Ellie! Finally, Joel goes kinda crazy and kills everyone, including preventing the cure to save the world over a sentiment he gave up just an episode ago. Beloved character going mad in an absurdly short span of time. Now doesn't that ring a bell? Aha! It seems particularly unlikely that all these trained soldiers would fall so easily to some rando who hasn't had any military training himself and doesn't even know how to check his f***ing corners. Ugh.
It's them. Blast them.
It's never made clear why the soldier shoots Sarah in episode 1. It seemingly makes no sense at all, and being a cornerstone in Joel's character, it certainly begs an explanation other than
the government are all Nazis!
People keep talking about how clickers are particularly dangerous, but this is never backed up.
Wait, you ran into a clicker?
2 of them.
And you're still alive?
Being blind, the clickers are at a disadvantage, and even with enhanced hearing, they shouldn't pose a bigger threat than your common infected. Unless there's something the show isn't telling us. We never see anyone struggle with basic needs like access to drinkable water, sudden illness, or other mundane yet devastating issues that would arise in an apocalyptic world. Seeing as the show loves to reflect on the things we take for granted in the real world, it's a missed opportunity to explore this theme further. A lot of characters come and go, oftentimes in the same episode, and whilst this isn't an error in and of itself, the part where they don't provide any lasting impact is. Lastly, so much screen time is wasted on repeating things we already know, or just on absolutely nothing. All in all, I liked where this show was going, but it quickly went downhill as the show turned out to be so shallow and rushed. The only reason we care about Joel and Ellie is because we're supposed to. The trajectory of them growing closer is so rocky with such poor dialogue and shameful shortcuts like the pun book. It's so mediocre. And this is HBO, responsible for modern classics like Chernobyl and Euphoria. The Last of Us 2 has been widely debated, but the nature of the story structure allows the show a credible second chance. I know I will temper my expectations coming into Season 2, but there's no denying the potential for a resurgence. So what did you think of The Last of Us? Let me know in the comments. Like the video if you liked it, it helps the channel grow, and subscribe to get notified whenever I post. There's a longer form podcast available on the second channel, so check that out if you want to hear me and my colleague Justin go toe-to-toe on whether this show was worth it or not. You're not wrong, but you're also not right. Like,
What does that mean?
I don't know what you're trying to say. I mean, you're defending episode 7, I get it, it's not bad, it's actually kind of good.
Talking about any of that.
Special thanks to my supporters on Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee, you guys f***ing rock. And as always, thank you all for watching.